Welcome you to our dedication today. Several people have contributed to this event. The marker is from the William G. Pomeroy Foundation. The foundation has been given out grants for markers since 2006. Now they believe that historical markers play an important role in the local historic preservation by serving a dual purpose. They educate the public and foster historic tourism, which in turn can provide much needed economic benefits to the towns and villages where the markers are placed. This is the second marker that the foundation has funded for the Nunda. The other one is in our square. The society, we would also like to thank several other people. One is Gary and Angel Hotchkiss, who are the owners of this property, for their cooperation in the placement of this marker. Several local Boy Scouts are also responsible for cleaning out the locks this spring. Andrew Lane Payne, Jacob James, Jacob Elliott, and Scoutmaster Chris Elliott did a wonderful job on a hot day of cleaning the brush from the lock, and we thank them for their work. Now, writing the grant and documenting the information on the sign was done by the Nunda Historical Society. But that was the easy part. Much harder was finding someone willing and able to physically place the sign. Nunda is a nice place to live, partly because of the people who are always willing to volunteer their time and energy. We thank the Cox family for stepping forward. Bob, his dad Phil, and Uncle Roger removed the old posts and erected and cleaned the pole. Bob and his son-in-law Jeremy Preston then placed the very heavy sign. We thank them all for their help. At this time, I have the privilege to introduce Mayor Bob Cox.
Hello everyone, glad to see you come out on this nice day.
Still recording.
Better infrastructure brings economic growth. Investments in infrastructure lay the foundation for economic growth. Building bridges, roads, and transmission lines, when completed, these projects create jobs and opportunities that make our communities grow and increase their wealth. Efficient infrastructure is the core to our American economic strength. The construction of canals and roadways in the 19th century and national highways in the 20th century has sparked growth and prosperity. Infrastructure must be maintained and modernized as new needs and technologies emerge. Even today, there are improvements needed to our infrastructure in our aging water lines, fiber optic lines, radio and cell towers. Infrastructure investments can jumpstart economic growth in less developed areas and attract investors and stimulate commerce. The canal system, the federal government said, was not a practical project when the costs were considered to build. But then Governor DeWitt Clinton of New York State secured the money and undertook this project that some called Clinton's Ditch. This tied almost all of New York's major cities to the New York City ports and made shipping around the state and to world markets and put New York State on the map as the Empire State. When the canal was built to include Nunda, it was an avenue to transport products and materials out to new markets that wanted our products and brought needed goods here. Before this, everything had to be moved over poorly built roads, not made for shipping heavy products like lumber and grain to markets outside of our local area. When the railroad came to Nunda, it created an even better method to move products. It could move very heavy and large freight. The rail system could move goods year-round and quickly compared to the canal system. This method of transportation serviced Nunda well through the years. Had not been for the railroad being here, the Foot Factory would not have been able to ship their products from Nunda to around the world. Without the canal and railroad systems, economic growth for the Nunda area would not have happened. We have farms and businesses today that have flourished during this time that are still here. At the present time here in Nunda, we are seeing the infrastructure get upgraded. The electrical power system is receiving upgrades, and currently New York State Gas Company is installing upgrades to their gas delivery systems here in the village. Presently, we are seeing some business growth at the local level. Nunda Veterinary Clinic will be building a new facility, and once again, Nut Butter is expanding and building a new manufacturing facility. Neither of these building projects would have taken place without the availability of public water and sewer being extended through the Public Works project. None of these projects could take place without entrepreneurs risking their money and people making these things happen. Thank you all for coming. I hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Actually, I'd like to quote a statement that Mr. Cook made as part of a speech he gave back in 1988. He said, "Transportation has always been a place for dreams." One of the things that our pioneer ancestors dreamed about in the earliest days of Nunda was a faster and less expensive way to get their goods to market. A means faster than the ox cart and overland route they had taken to come to Nunda. When the Erie Canal opened, the dream of lateral canals to link the interior areas of the state, such as the Genesee Valley, to markets in the east began. That means became the Genesee Valley Canal. Work began in 1837, but for various reasons, the canal did not reach Nunda until 1851. And it was 1861 before the canal reached the Allegheny River in Olean, New York. The entire length of the canal is about 124 miles long. It was 42 feet wide at the top and 26 feet wide at the bottom, with a depth of 4 feet, which could handle boats up to about 55 tons. 17 of the 112 locks are on the 5-mile stretch between Nunda and Portageville. They are stone and timber composite locks built at a cost of about $12,000 each. The stone was supplied from the stone quarry south of Nunda village by a small railroad, that is the Swains Branch Railroad, which ran through the woods west of the water cure. The timber was also probably locally sourced. Lot 42 was a stop on the dream of the transportation superhighway of over a century and a half ago. This was one of 3 locks in our village. It was unique because it had a lift of 10¼ feet. It was 90 feet long and 15 feet wide. And a canal boat could lock through in about 20 minutes. Navigation on the Nunda section of the canal began almost exactly 164 years ago. On June 20, 1851 was the day when water, which had been let in from the feeder at Ormel in Cattaraugus County, reached Nunda. On Sunday the 21st, the longest day of the year, the first boat, the State Scout, passed up the canal, causing considerable excitement among young and old alike. Waiting to be shipped out of Nunda was a huge amount of pine lumber, staves, shingles, and so forth, which would make cargo for a large number of boats in a very busy season. C.H. Whitford was the lock tender on Lock 42 and noted the following traffic had been locked through during 1 week: 72 boats, 10 cribs of square lumber, and 6 cribs of round lumber. The next week, 86 boats and 12 rafts passed through, and the following week, 69 boats. The impact the canal had on the Keshequa Valley is immeasurable. Between 1840 and 1868, over 1.4 million tons of lumber, pearl ash, cheese, and numerous other agricultural commodities were shipped on the canal. The most important commodity was wheat, because Monroe and Livingston counties were the breadbasket of the nation until the late 1850s. Almost certainly, flour from the Cooperville mill went to market over the Genesee Valley Canal. In addition, this new transportation brought a rapid increase in population to the canal towns, including Nunda and Oakland. Now, I'd like to share an interesting historical nugget about a shipment on the canal that you might not know about. Once during the Civil War, a canal boat laden with ammunition passed through Nunda en route to Vicksburg, where its arrival aided in a victory for the Union forces. This was a carefully guarded secret and was not known here until long afterwards. Now, you cross the canal over 4 bridges that arched steeply to leave headroom for boats passing underneath. Those bridges were at the foot of Gibbs Street, from West Street to 1st and 2nd Streets, 4th Street, which was then known as North Street, and across North State Street. But dreams come to an end. No sooner was the canal in operation than people began to be dissatisfied with it. In 1867, the people of Nunda dubbed the canal a nuisance when serious breaks, such as the one which took out 60 feet of towpath to a depth of 20 feet and cut out some 200 feet of canal bottom near Portage, were an almost daily occurrence. It must have been a sad day, though, when the water was let out of the canal for the last time in 1878. But a new transportation dream, the railroad, was on the horizon. The Genesee Valley Canal Railroad was built on the old towpath. The railroad was later taken over by the Pennsylvania Railroad. Remember, we were the railroad stop where the trains backed into town. Today, the old towpath is part of the Genesee Valley Greenway, a year-round recreational corridor. You can still see traces of the old canal along Route 408, but it is a fading fragment that the occasional tourist might stop at. But that changes today. Today, we dedicate this marker in honor of Lock 42, one of the few remaining visible locks where you can stop and ponder, quote, the magnitude of the undertaking, which was the chief instrument in retaining for New York the proud title of Empire State. We must always remember that the Genesee Valley Canal created a lifeline to the small towns and villages of the Genesee Valley. In closing, Lock 42 and the canal were once a dream. We hope that this lock not only continues to represent the past, but also serves as a reminder that we should also look to the future and dream of ways to make Nunda an even nicer place to live. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll let you two have the honors. Thank you very much for everyone for coming today, and make sure that you take a time to stop and see old Lock 42, and we appreciate you coming out today.